Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
Bandwidth is provided by Cachefly at CACHEFLY.com.
Welcome to All About Android. This is the show where we give you the latest news, hardware, help and how-to, and app advice for the Android faithful. I'm Eileen Rivera.
I'm Jason Howell.
And I'm Ron Richards.
We're your crew.
That's right. We're the Android peeps.
We're the gang.
All right, well, this week we're going to talk about the true openness of Android, a roundup of CTIA hardware news, and a handful of Android app stories. We got a lot going on.
Yeah,
voicemails and emails, too.
That's right. I guess we should kind of start off just around kind of where the show came from. There are a lot of people that are probably watching live right now, more likely, but a lot of people that have already seen us do our beta episodes that are posted on YouTube.
Yeah, this is
release
episode
candidates.
uno.
This is episode uno for reals.
This
but
really
we've done
counts.
a lot of them up until
The
now.
launch.
Exactly.
I feel like we need like a bottle of champagne or something to break on the computer.
Oh, we should have, huh?
Yeah. Oh, well.
But so we've done a lot of interacting with the fans that have tuned into the live beta programs of All About Android to kind of make sure that this show ends up being your show as much as it is ours. And I'd like to think that we kind of accomplished that at this point.
I know. I think we've got submissions for theme songs that are not all of them. Obviously, we can only pick one, but we're going to use some of the other submissions as segment headers. You guys have given us, video intros and
we've got a whole lot of pieces of media and more to come. In fact, the intro graphic that you saw is going to be animated, and that's courtesy of Andre Richard, a.k.a. Refracted in the chat room. The theme song you heard is Stuart Colin at Bootwell on Twitter. And then we have a different person that wrote the outro song. Well, we'll get there later. But
yeah. So
it's a collaborative effort. I love it. It's so many people coming on board and helping. It's amazing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's the hope anyways. So.
Yeah.
So I guess since, this is our first episode, there's a lot of you who don't know who we are. We wanted to just kind of go around the horn and just kind of reintroduce ourselves. If you haven't seen any of our betas that are all on YouTube, on youtube.com/twit.
That's right. Well, I'm Jason Howell, and let me find my little thing here. Jason Howell, I produce TNT with Tom Merritt here on the TWiT network, as well as work on frame rate. Used to do a show when I was at CNET called Android Atlas Weekly. It's still going. It's a great show. But moving over here, suddenly I had no Android show, and this is the result of that. I'm back to talking about Android, which is just kind of a big passion of mine. So that's that.
And Ron?
Excellent. So I'm a longtime friend of a lot of folks at TWiT. I've been friends with Tom and Sarah and Jason and Eileen for years. I used to work at Revision 3, where I still help out. I still review apps over on App Judgment at Revision 3. But now I'm working for a startup called Graphically, which does digital comics online. And we've got Android apps and iPhone apps and things like that. And I also run a comic book website called ifanboy.com. And I'm a huge Android fan. I remember, Eileen, I don't know if you remember, I bought the G1 right when it came out. And before that, I was a Windows Mobile user, and I hated it. And I knew that a smartphone could be good, and I knew that I didn't have to drink from the Apple Kool-Aid to have one. And so when I got the G1, I loved it. And then we launched App Judgment over Revision 3, and now I'm on a Nexus S, and excited to be talking about Android every week, which is awesome. So,
nice.
Yeah.
And for those of you who don't know me, I'm Eileen, and I'm a producer here. I'm Leo's producer at TWiT. And I've been knocking on his door for a long time saying, we need to do an Android show. We need to do an Android show. That was before you came. And then I kind of heard rumblings that you were going to be here, Jason. And I'm like, oh, when Jason gets here, we should really do an Android show. And that's how I'm here. But not only that, but I was also a producer on App Judgment at Revision 3, where I know Ron from. So, I've been kind of living and breathing the app ecosystem for a while now. I have been an iPhone user for quite a while, and I'm the noob on this group. So I've been using an Android phone since September, August. And I have a Nexus S, but nice. I also have the Motorola Zoom.
Ooh, wow. Fancy!
I got this yesterday. This is the Wi-Fi Zoom, and I'm not going to do a full review yet because I've barely spent 24 hours with this thing. I can tell you that it's really snappy. It's gorgeous. The screen is gorgeous. A lot of my apps transferred from my phone to the Zoom, but as you can expect, not all of them work really well with the Zoom.
They're not optimized yet.
They're not yet. Doodle Jump, and I'll show you guys later when we talk about the Amazon App Store. Not quite there yet. I'm really excited by it, though.
I'm so jealous. It's not even fair.
I thought it was really strange, though, that I got music preloaded into this Zoom.
But that's happening more.
Interesting.
Like
That's
12
happening
tracks.
more and more because Google's making, and some of the other, the providers are making these content deals, and so like you're getting phones with movies on them now. Like Inception is coming preloaded on movies, and I forget which phone I had, but I had songs already on the phone when I got it. It wasn't the Nexus S, it might have been the Nexus One. They're paying to get on there. So
I never owned Wyclef Jean or Zeus or Tosca or
what's
Travis.
amazing is that you can delete them.
You can. I'm interested to listen to some of them, but it was strange because I opened it up and I don't see her right now, but I saw Carrie Underwood and I'm like, wait a minute. When did I download Carrie Underwood? I'm confused. And when did I sync my Zoom? Because I just got it.
Well, I think it makes sense that these that they start bundling music into these things, but that's a lot of music to be bundled that you didn't own before.
Yeah.
You'd think that would significantly alter, or maybe it does, and we just don't know, the cost of the unit.
Yeah, I don't know. This was $5.99, Wi-Fi only, and I have to tell you, this was an interesting experience going to buy this because it came out. We're recording this show on Monday. It came out yesterday, Sunday, at Best Buy, Costco, Sam's Club, and I called Best Buy and I said, hey, how many do you have in stock? Half of them didn't even know that they were selling it, and they jumped me around to store after store.
A Zune? You want a Zune?
Well, don't you want the 3G version? We only have the 3G version. I said, no, your ad says you have it on sale today. I can show you. So when I finally picked a store, because they had, apparently more units than another that was close by, I went there and all the sales associates didn't know. Like, what are you talking about? No, the Verizon rep is right there. You can get the Verizon tablet, Zoom tablets. No, I want the Wi-Fi. You guys have 4. I called. Doesn't anybody know?
No one's buying them. Maybe that's why.
No one had bought one yet.
Not saying that no one's buying them. I'm just saying maybe they weren't there. They hadn't
They
been
only
asked
had
yet.
4? Wow.
There was only 4 in stock at this one store.
interesting.
There was like 10 in the South Bay in one of the South Bay stores. There's more stocked in the South Bay. But anyway, so when I did buy it, they were all the sales reps were all excited. Oh, this is really great. This is Wi-Fi is available. I'm like, you didn't know? How did you not know?
I guess we'll have to sell that then. We'll have to tell people about this now that we know.
Yeah. But first impressions are really good. I'm excited to dig in a little bit more to play with video, and the audio is a little tinny. You might especially be disappointed. It's just a little tinny.
Little tinny. You mean through headphones or through the speaker, built-in speakers?
Built-in speaker.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine that anything that slim is going to put out awesome audio. When it comes to music playback, anyways.
Right.
How's the feel of it? Has got some heft? I've heard it's got some heft to it.
It was a little heavy, but then I weighed it against my iPad, and it was pretty close. The original iPad. Sorry, the original, not the new one. The new one's thin, whatever. So it is, after a while, though, it kind of, when you're holding it in your hands, it gets kind of heavy. So
so using it as an ebook, you'd probably notice that a lot.
Yeah, and that's what I primarily use a tablet for, is reading, videos, some music. So we'll see how that goes. We'll see how this stands through the test of time. But overall, love, most of my stuff is on here, starting to customize already. Got some of my widgets up. Some of them won't work yet. Like this one, this is Jort. I really like this calendar system, and it won't sync with Google Cal right now. But I'm sure that'll all fix. I'm seeing in the Android App Store a lot of updates to a ton of apps saying this is now optimized for
for
the Zoom.
That's it's a real, speaking on a development side, because I do some development, I work with some folks who do development on apps. It's getting harder and harder with Android, with the different flavors, to make sure the apps are running on one kind of install. Especially Honeycomb is such a big kind of update to the UI and that sort of thing. I think we're going to run into a lot of those compatibility issues over the next couple of months as they try to figure that out. So.
Well, I think this kind of leads in perfectly to our first news story of the day. And I think on this show, we're just kind of lightly go through the news. You've already heard about a lot of these news on TWiT and TNT especially, but we can't ignore some of the news that's out there.
That's right. Let's do the drop, because, I happen to have this one anyways.
Nice.
Yay! Animated by Eileen, and and the music is actually a courtesy of Joshua Caleb, who submitted that for the theme. I just kind of cut it up and put it on the news.
I love it. Yeah, he's like, wait, don't talk about the news yet, Eileen. Okay, sorry.
I was like, we got a drop. That's the only segment that we actually have a drop for, except for one later. But
all right, cool.
There will be more to come.
Okay, Honeycomb. Let's talk about what everybody's talking about. I think this is the top story of the week.
Absolutely.
Honeycomb won't be open sourced. Say it isn't so. Well, it's.
And is it as big of an issue as it's being reported as?
I'm curious to think. I'm curious to know what you guys think. We haven't talked about this openly between the three of us, so I'm curious if we're all going to have differing opinions on this or not.
So let's just at least kind of talk about exactly what's going on here. Google said last Thursday that it will delay distribution of the Honeycomb source code, and that's at least for now. Andy Rubin, who's VP of Engineering at Google, said that the release of the code at this point would likely result in developers putting the code that's optimized for tablets onto phones. And that's something that you can already see, in the history books of Android at this point. It's open, so people, want to do a whole lot of nifty, cool things. They want to be maybe the first to market with Android. So what did they do? They took Froyo and they ended up making it, turning it into a Samsung Galaxy Tab, or the many knockoff tablets that, no-name tablets that kind of came out. And when you actually picked it up, you're like, well, it just feels like a phone but bigger. It didn't feel like a tablet. It feels like a phone but bigger. That's because, from what Google is saying here, that the OS wasn't necessarily optimized to be a tablet OS. There's different usability concerns there. So I don't know. It kind of seems like Google is taking the approach of, yes, we're an open OS, and that term right there is probably very debatable
right.
by a lot of people.
Debate today.
Exactly. Yeah. But in the case of this, they're realizing that they're up against the iPad 2 specifically right now, the granddaddy of tablets at this point. And I mean, they have to kind of do some quality and damage control. If they do release code out there that's full of these holes and isn't meant to be, isn't optimized and meant to kind of be taken into whatever directions developers want to do with them, that's not a knock on the developer that decides to do that. Right. To the wide spanning consumer, that's a knock on Google's approach to tablet, which may not necessarily be true.
Well, this kind of leads into a little mini segment of mine that I'm going to have reoccurring every once in a while called, What Would Andy Say?
Yeah, what would Andy say?
What would he say about this? Well, guess what? He's had a quote.
Yeah, he's here.
All right. He says, this is from Andy Rubin, from a Business Week article, to make our schedule to ship the tablet, we made some design trade-offs. We didn't want to think about what it would take for the same software to run on phones. It would have required a lot of additional resources and extended our schedule beyond what we thought was reasonable, so we took a shortcut. Thank you, Andy.
I'm trying to stop him on a closed mouth. There we go. Thank you, Andy.
Well,
welcome.
I can't.
He won't stop talking.
Yeah.
I can't blame the guy because development is hard, and a lot of the stuff that they do for tablets is a different experience from the phone, and they just want to. I mean, from what I can tell is that they're trying to maintain the code so that it runs optimally for the device it's designed for. And if people are hacking it, putting it on phones, and then it sucks, people are then going to say Honeycomb sucks, and then they're going to get a lot of negative press. And so I can understand where they're coming from for that.
Yeah. Totally. I can completely understand where they're coming from. We actually got an email from Colby on this topic. He says he's a big fan of the show so far. He's been watching the betas. But he says that Cyanogen, now in the root community, and by the way, it's something that we didn't talk about at the top, but we will be involving root, rooting your phone, all that kind of stuff. So at some point, we're going to root Eileen's phone on the show, hopefully sometime in the near future. But Cyanogen of Cyanogenmod, which is probably one of the more well-known root OSs for Android, actually came out and said, I think Google is doing the right thing by not releasing 3.0 source because it's probably a pile of nasty hacks. And 2.3 and 3.0 were developed in parallel with different goals. I'd rather see them get it right and release code that plays nice everywhere. And I think that to hear someone who's so entirely entrenched in open source as far as Android is concerned, this guy develops tons of stuff that wouldn't be possible or maybe would be less easy to do if it wasn't an open ecosystem. maybe that's debatable. But to hear him say this, I actually, when I saw this email and saw that he was about to include a quote, I thought it would be completely different. But I think it's totally true. You release something out to the massive, amounts of people that are just going to walk into a store and pick up a tablet because it says Google on it, and it's not designed to be like that. They're going to judge Google for that, and Google can't at this point avoid to lose that battle. They really need to kind of come forward with their best foot forward.
And at the same time, I'm not going to talk about, now it's not open. This is not really what open is anymore. But I just want to say, when you rush something out, just as we've heard with that quote that they had to do, there's some consequences that's always going to happen, and here's what it is. So, I think they knew that. They had to take that risk, Google, that is. And but they're being, they're being forthright with what's going on. They're not trying to hide, anything.
Yeah.
So
and the assumption of open is that just because they wrote the code doesn't Google embraces open source, and they get to choose when they release it.
Exactly.
Like, there's no law saying that you've got to release it as soon as you put out the first tablet or as soon as the first cut is done. Like, they've got to get to a point where, okay, this is ready to go out into the wild.
Yeah. Yeah, but, and true followers of open source would probably, would definitely say that what Google does with Android is not open source, but it's more open than a lot of the alternatives. You know what I mean? So maybe it's not true, complete open source, but my fear going down that direction, and believe me, I realize that I might get some hate mail for doing this, but when you make something completely and absolutely open source, that the code's available at every iteration along the way and anybody can get it, I mean, I feel like you kind of run the risk of doing what we're talking about right here, which is kind of painting with a broad stroke that, that means that this is bad because that person just happened to get something that wasn't completely baked. And
I think there's also some to the theory of, and I don't know if we're ready if we have a bumper for our hardware section, but
no, not yet. We will.
There was recently some news of Google's working with LG on developing a new Nexus tablet. Kind of following in the footsteps of working with HTC on the first Nexus 1 and then Samsung with the Nexus S. And, something could be said, they went into a deal with Motorola to get the zoom out, but, they had to get the software ready for the zoom. But are they really focusing the work on Honeycomb to make sure the Nexus tablet with LG is the best it can be? So that's one possible theory that's there. But I just love the fact that this Nexus brand is becoming like this, the belle of the ball, where they're lending it out to pretty much every manufacturer of any Android device.
Yeah, they'll go with any developer or manufacturer. They don't discriminate. The Nexuses.
Yeah, who cares? But I want that Nexus tablet if that's really the Google, the next Google tablet.
Yeah, I found if the LG tablet is true, and if it is going to be a Nexus tablet, which it probably is going to be, and it's going to be bloatware like the Nexus S and the Nexus 1 has been, that's my choice. I've avoided the Evo and the other phones on other platforms because I don't want software pre-installed similar to your music experience that you had, Eileen, and probably with some other software that was installed on the Zoom. But if the LG tablet comes completely clean and is completely free and is the true Google Nexus tablet, sign me up for that one. So, yeah.
I was just thinking, the music was the only thing that I saw that was pre-installed on here. I think there was a couple of apps that I noticed. I thought, that's interesting. That's in the Android App Store. I can't believe and I'm not talking about maps or, some of the Gmail or something like that. There was
So with Motorola, it's a Moto Blur is their usual overlay. That's not involved here though, right?
Oh, thank God.
So it's vanilla-ish, or
Pretty
it's
much.
vanilla with some pre-installed music, I guess?
Yeah, the only thing that I can see was music that was pre-installed.
So
There's
I wonder
no
what the
video.
difference would be here between this and the LG.
It's pretty clean.
Although, especially when you consider what Andy Rubin was talking about there, if they're spending time before they release the source code, it's very possible that the LG tablet that comes out will actually be different than this.
Yeah.
I mean, to a certain degree anyways, as they kind of hone the code and make it better. So,
yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, so that is the Nexus tablet. I guess we should probably talk a little bit about the CTIA, that just actually wrapped up at the end of last week. There was a lot of Android news.
Yeah, I kind of wish I could have been there because Android was all over the place at CTIA. Most specifically, Samsung came out with the Galaxy Tab 8.9 and 10.1. The world's thinnest tablet's got to be obviously thinner than this. And it looks cool. I'm looking for thin, light, powerful. And there you go on the video there.
That's nice. Look how thin that is. That's pretty cool.
Nice.
Yeah.
Is this the 8.9?
I think this is the 8.9.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. Yeah, Wi-Fi HSPA plus models coming in the U.S.
Yeah, coming available June. Looks like $499 for the 16 gig, $599 for the 32 gig model. And then there's the Wi-Fi Galaxy Tab 8.9, $469, 16 gig, and $569, 32 gigabyte to ship this summer. LTE and WiMAX versions later this year. So, yeah, this is just the beginning, right? The beginning of all of the tablets that I'm not going to be able to keep, track of. Wait a minute, is this the LG are we talking about, or the Samsung, or the Sony, or the Motorola?
Well, you won't have to keep track of that many because Google's kind of,
That's true.
They're choosing their partners slowly and surely, from what it sounds like. So there won't be too many to choose from. Another thing that kind of made a big splash was the HTC Evo 3D. Which,
yeah, what's going on there? I'm not quite.
Well, here I'll go.
This blows my mind, by the way. This phone.
I really want to see it in person. Yeah, and see kind of how the 3D pops. 3D is just one of those things for me right now that I feel like it's kind of the front-facing camera of a couple of years ago. Not that it hasn't been done before, not that it won't be done
really
a lot,
that.
but once somebody comes along and really kind of. I don't know. It feels like the thing that's just going to end up being in your phone eventually. Kind of like front-facing cameras 2 years ago. It was like, oh, well, does it have that? Oh, that's a cool feature to lust for or whatever. So some people didn't care. I feel like 3D may be the next thing.
Yeah, well, judging by the Nintendo 3D and how there were lines for that, people are definitely interested. But I wonder, because that's the first device to really show us 3D without glasses. And,
Absolutely.
And I played with it a little bit, and for the 5 minutes that I had it, I thought, oh, this is really interesting. I kind of like it. It's like seeing a little hologram. When you're playing. But after long periods of time using it, is that going to be really good for your eyes? I don't know. I don't know. Time will tell.
And these are all questions that we can't answer because we haven't, to a large degree, most of us have not experienced a 3D handset. So we kind of don't know what we're missing. You know what I mean? Once 3D gets integrated and actually becomes useful, I think it could be one of those things that it's like, well, okay, if it's built in, then why not? If my display shows 3D, and I don't have to pay a whole lot more for it, maybe it's not the type of feature that commands hundreds of dollars more on your device because no one's going to pay that. Maybe it's just built in and you get it.
Yeah, I think it's the kind of thing where like you said, you don't know what it's good for until you have it. I mean, personally, I'm worried about the 2 a.m. walk home from the bar, texting somebody in 3D. Like, that's going to be interesting, whether that becomes a challenge or not. But like, as long as it doesn't, it all comes down, and we talked about this on some of the previous times we've talked, it comes down to form over function. Yeah. Just because you can do 3D doesn't necessarily mean that you need to do it in the UI or that it's required to utilize the phone. It's cool as a bells and whistle, but is it going to be the kind of thing that, like, I turn off all the animations on my phone as soon as I get it? Because they're cute, but I don't need them.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and if you don't like it, then I'm sure not every phone's going to have 3D.
Well, it's interesting because again, Nintendo made this big push, and now in statements that I'm reading in various articles, they're kind of pulling back. Like, oh well, but you can use the slider and go back to 2D, and we're also making games for 2D. So it's
they don't
want
to totally and completely put all their eggs.
And maybe they're not hearing the resounding, loving reception that they thought they would get. I don't know. But I don't know, I'm kind of really skeptical about this whole 3D thing, period.
I really want to see it in person before I judge it. But you've seen it, so you kind of know a little bit about what to expect.
I've heard some cool stuff with the Nintendo thing, and cool. And honestly, it seems like we all want to get to the chess game in Star Wars, when Chewbacca and the droids are playing. That's where we want to get to. That makes sense. On a phone, I'm not sure,
Yeah. So. Well, so I guess I should actually talk a little bit more about the device itself other than the 3D. It's a dual-core 1.2 gigahertz, 4.3-inch 3D screen, as we talked about, dual 5-megapixel camera on the back, 1080p HD videos recorded. It's going to be available this summer with Sprint. And actually, for international listeners and viewers of the show, it just came to light today that it's going to get a European launch, according to a tweet by the French wing of HTC. So you guys have that to look forward to. Yeah, so that's pretty nifty. We're going to try and integrate international hardware news into the show as we can. It's hard to
It's hard. We don't live there.
I got to say, I monitor some international news, and I'm like, what do we talk about all this? I don't know what rises to the top. So maybe you guys can help us out with that and send us something that's really important to you. AAA@twit.tv.
Or at Android Show on Twitter.
Oh, that works as well. We'll cover all those at the end as well if you don't have a pen handy. And then finally, HTC also showed off here. Let me take the screen for this. The HTC Evo View, which, there we go. The Evo View, a 7-inch 1024 by 600 Android tablet. And it has a 1.5 gigahertz processor, 5 megapixel rear, and 1.3 megapixel front-facing camera. WiMAX radio, shipping this summer. 7 inches on a tablet. That's that weird no man's land between tablet and ginormous phone.
Yeah.
Well, it's not a phone, but
I know.
understand.
Well, it's kind of
fills a strange area in the tablet wars.
Does it have a stylus? Does it come with a stylus? Do I see that correctly?
Is this the one that comes with the stylus?
I think it's the one that comes with the stylus. What are they thinking with that?
Well, you know what? At Best Buy, they had styluses next to the Zoom in the display.
Really?
$19.99. You can get the
an accessory, a stylus accessory.
Yeah, but I think I know that there are artists out there that draw on it. There's apps to draw. I just downloaded a draw app, so that's helpful, so they can get it precise. So I can see uses for that.
Totally.
So, but in related tablet news, Asus is not one to get kind of left behind. They've got
Asus.
Yeah, Asus. So they're launching their EE. Is it EEE or E? Like, how do you pronounce it? With the triple E pad transformer.
E pad.
So they're launching the E pad transformer, which is an Android tablet, and this one's kind of neat because this one's it's got a big screen. It's got a 10.1 inch screen with a 1280 by 800 pixel screen. It's running a 1 gigahertz dual core processor, but it's got the dock, the keyboard dock, to give it a little more of that kind of like pseudo laptop kind of feel.
Kind of like the Atrix.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it comes with 1 gig of RAM, but you can expand it up to 32 gig of storage. And it's got the camera, the 5 megapixel camera in the rear, and a 1.3 megapixel in the front. And they've also got the HDMI out, which is pretty cool if you're going to use it for presentations and things like that to go to a monitor or a TV. So again, this one's on the bigger side of the tablet. It's going away from the 7-inch of that Evo tablet to more of a borderline tablet / laptop solution. Which is interesting. So. It's a heftier one though. You can see in the video. Yeah, it's definitely take away that keyboard, and that's a big tablet.
That is true. Yeah. It almost looks a little narrower for a tablet too, but maybe it's just my eye playing tricks.
So here's my question for everybody here: what is your ideal tablet size? Do you have one yet?
I don't know if I have one yet because I haven't really played around with a tablet. I think I've held an iPad like a couple of times.
There you go.
Well, I'll get back to you in half an hour.
Okay,
you guys
great.
do the show. I'll put up both of you on a shot here.
I own an iPad, and I've played a little bit with the Nook, and I played a little with the Galaxy and things like that. I gotta say that iPad Zoom size feels right to me. Like it's big enough to actually do something with, but it's not small enough where I'm like, oh, this is just a big phone. Like that's my biggest problem.
Yeah.
Like the Nook is really nice because it's interesting because it's a device that's made for as an e-reader, so it's nice. It fits in your hand, kind of like the Kindle does. But for a computing device, I think it's a little on the small side.
Yeah, I thought the Tab was also a little too small after using it, and now comparing it with the Zoom. And again, I have an iPad too, and what I use it for is for media and reading.
Yep.
And I want that slightly bigger screen.
Yep.
I just, I want the Zoom to be tiny bit thinner, and then we're good to go. And a few more apps. I think the make or break, honestly, with all these tablets are some of the apps, and there's not that many out there yet that are truly fantastic for.
Well, it's like the
tablet.
It's like the top of the first inning here with the Android tablets. I mean, it's so early, and that's the thing is that with Apple, they've got with the iPad. There's been a year of having the iPad out and all these apps developed for it, and really aside from the Galaxy and the kind of early entry level tablet size Android devices, we don't really have the full size tablet ones to develop with. Honeycomb is a big development, so I think over the next by the fall, I think you're going to see all the apps that you're looking for. I think it's going to come pretty fast and furious.
Yeah, because Jason, you sent me an article with, these are the top 10 apps to download for your Zoom.
Yeah,
and then I started
looking
through it last night. And then 8 of those apps aren't available yet. And I thought, oh, I was very disappointed.
These are the top 10 apps when they come out.
When they come out.
Dot, dot, dot.
I gotta say that Zoom name, the Zune thing is gonna kill me every time.
Yeah, it's gonna be a while. But isn't the Zune going away though? So we don't have to worry about that. Yeah.
Well, it's to the point where like a friend of mine was asking me like, "Oh, you gonna get a Zoom?" I'm like, "No, the Zune's dead, dude."
Zoom,
Yeah.
Why are you asking me that?
Yeah, exactly.
That's ridiculous.
Okay, so we really haven't decided on tablet size.
Yeah, I don't know.
We kind of did. Ron, you and I did.
I think
We kind of
bigger.
agreed.
I go bigger. Yeah,
Yeah.
but not huge. I don't think like gargantuan.
And I want thinner,
Yeah.
just slightly thinner.
It kind of seems for me, I don't know about size, but the weight is a big deal to me.
Did you think this was heavy?
It felt a little heavy.
It did. Yeah.
I don't know what I expected. I mean, I've held the iPad 2 and that thing's pretty damn light. So
Yeah.
I don't know. It's up against some strong competition as far as that's concerned. But size, I mean, I just haven't had enough experience with them. The chat room, it seemed, were right in between 8 and 9. I saw a lot of those.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds good. Well, shall we move on to apps?
Let's do that.
Okay.
One thing to note about this show is probably going to be pretty app heavy. We'll probably way more on the side of apps and how-tos and things like that than we will on news. Although today was probably the contrary to that, just because there was a lot to talk about.
Yeah,
but
there really was.
that's going to try and be the focus going forward. So.
Hopefully, there's not a conference every week that we got to talk about the hardware that comes out.
Yeah, exactly.
Another Android conference. All right. Well, let's start with the app of the week, which is a very controversial one, and I really don't want to give it.
Define that as you will.
Yeah,
For good or bad, right?
I don't really want to give it any more publicity, but I'm talking about color. And what I'm going to say about color is this. If you want to know more about it, I think you should watch our new social media show, The Social Hour. Sarah and Amber did a fantastic job telling you what this app was about, what the controversy was. That will be on our website today or tomorrow, pretty soon. What I want to say about it, without giving too much more credit for it or buzz about it, is that I do want to thank the developers for giving us an Android app so that we could all, the Android community, can understand as well with the iOS community all the hate surrounding and the reasons why it really is not a very good app.
No.
That's all I'm going to say.
Well, I'm only going to add one more thing, and that's that I installed it and tried to use it many, many, many times, and it's so bug-ridden
It's so
that
slow.
I couldn't even do anything. I couldn't take my initial photo. It would not let me do that.
Oh, yeah.
It would send me to the camera. I'd take the picture. It would go out like it was going to do something with it. And then it would send me to the camera and say, take your first picture. And by the way, I put up a screenshot just to kind of illustrate kind of how people feel about this app so far.
Oh,
2 stars.
2 stars.
That's pretty
harsh.
bad. That's pretty bad for a company that's 40 some odd million in
$40 million for this?
That's the big problem, and it's more of a business PR problem than although the app has issues, but like the story with color wasn't about what the app does or what it can do or anything like that. It was all about the funding, and it was all about what did you get for that that amount, and the total disaster on a PR front, if you ask me. But I installed the app this weekend, and I had the same problem with you. I loaded it and just sat there for a couple of minutes, and then it's like, take your first picture, and I said nope, and I closed it.
Yeah.
Wah, wah.
Well, and I've heard this before described, but it could be like sort of a chat roulette,
Yeah.
a photo
That's how it
taking,
kind of
and
seems.
that
We
could
need
get
that.
pretty bad.
Yeah, right.
Need that like a hole in our head. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So that's enough of that. If you want to know more about color, I say go listen to our great new show, The Social Hour.
That is right. All right. So the next story here, just worth mentioning, actually. RIM with the BlackBerry Playbook, another tablet competitor that's coming out. Tom Merritt actually is a huge fan of the Playbook. Has confirmed some news that was kind of hitting the past few weeks that the Playbook is actually going to be able to run Android apps on the tablet.
When we looked at that photo of the HTC Evo, that first look, I was thinking it looked eerily like the Playbook, which I've held already, and it's kind of a nice, sweet size, even though it's a lot smaller than the Motorola Zoom that I have here. It's almost a little too small, but from what I saw, it moved really fast, and it was, we'll see about battery life and all of that. But
yeah.
I'm actually kind of excited for it. and I'm glad that it's going to run Android apps. So we
just
can talk about it.
Interesting for a competitor to come out and say, "Yeah, we'll run your apps too." It's kind of
it's a smart move. It's a smart move by them. Totally.
Totally.
I mean, I think like because Android, because it's Java based, it can be extended out that onto another platform, and it opens the door to so many other apps. Because who's really developing BlackBerry apps?
Yeah, well, it gives them a library right out the door.
Yeah.
There's not
absolutely.
many. Sorry, BlackBerry fans, but I tried to review apps on that phone and just no.
It's hard. Yeah,
No.
the apps on that
I'm
phone
sorry,
are
no.
not very easy. And it should also be noted, actually, that new QNX or QNX-based BlackBerry smartphones will get this capability as well. So it's kind of a BlackBerry thing for
Welcome
the
to
future.
the family.
Smart move on them.
Future, man.
Yeah, but another smart move in terms of Android and the Android marketplace is going to allow for in-app billing. In-app billing is in testing, and it's getting ready to go live finally. So this is definitely something that developers are been hoping for, because in-app billing makes it so much easier to utilize an app that's got things for sale. And so it's
buy
great.
my potion in the app. Yeah.
Exactly. It's great. It's great to finally see this. I mean, this is something that Apple's had down from for a while with on the iPhone side of things, and so see Android catching up to this point really going to open a lot of doors up for a lot of different developers who are doing more e-commerce kind of applications and things like that. So
Yeah, if they want developers developing for the platform, they need to be able to do things like this. It actually kind of blows me away that it took this long for this to happen.
and it's like being able to buy additional levels or buy media or things like that. And they had a clunky kind of you go out of the app kind of fix for it, which never really worked well. And you want to contain that experience as much as you can inside the application. So it's good that they finally got whatever they needed to do to sort it out. So that's cool. But then also in the app store front, we were talking a little about the Nook and the Barnes & Noble's e-reader, Android-based e-reader. They've got an app store waiting in the wings. It's going to be coming out in April, and it's also going to include Flash support. And I've got a little bit. I had a little bit of a sneak preview of this, and it's real. It's for real. It looks pretty cool. I can't talk much about it, but it's basically in that contained Nook experience, there'll be a quote unquote app store where you'll be able to make purchases from the application. Again, it's, Barnes & Noble's taking that heavily curated, heavily kind of controlled kind of experience, which can be good and bad. I mean, if you think about the people who are going to go to Barnes & Noble and buy this, it's probably the uninitiated. It's probably people not like us. So I think the approach they're taking is pretty cool. It's a very nice interface. So.
Although I would say possibly that up until now, because it's totally possible to root your Nook and throw a market on. So I almost feel like before this news came out, it was totally people like us that would go get the Nook for a really inexpensive tablet, root it, and be able to do all the cool things that you can do with an Android device and not be locked down. I almost wonder, do you think this is in the plans? Because, I mean, suddenly it's on everybody's radar that you can root the Nook. I feel like it just kind of caught on like wildfire, that suddenly people are like, wow, this is a really inexpensive, decent tablet once you root it. Is this damage control, or they probably had this in the
you got to imagine the way, and I know nothing. I know nothing about what their development plans were or anything like that.
Really?
But just to disclaim that. But you got to think that a big company working with a vendor, working with Google, I think this has been on their roadmap for a while. I mean, the rumors of the Amazon App Store have been going on for, it finally launched last week, but we've known about it for months. I think they're just trying to be competitive. So,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I think, honestly, you want the hobbyists to embrace your device. It'll increase sales, and it'll get the word out. And that way, so if I've got my Nook and I happen to hack it, but then my sister, who's an uninitiated user, sees it, and she'll go, oh, well, maybe, he got that, so maybe it's pretty good. I'll grab it, and then she can actually use it. So
yeah, you definitely want the hobbyists. I mean, Microsoft knows that. They did that with the Kinect, right? And the Kinect became one of the highest selling items, was it, of last year? I can't remember what the factoid was around that, but I mean, ridiculously, they knocked it out of the ballpark. So, and that's probably part of the reason why. And then finally, Google teams up with MasterCard and Citigroup for near-field communication payments. They file a patent around this. In some of our beta shows, we had talked about that Google was working with, I believe, VeriSign to purchase hardware and distribute those through San Francisco and New York. And I mean, it's basically been confirmed from the Wall Street Journal that they're doing this. So if you live in San Francisco, New York, sometime by the end of the year, you should start finding places that you can use your NFC enabled device to make payments for you. You don't have to get your wallet out. You just wave your phone over the terminal, and it does all the purchasing for you, which is pretty cool.
Very excited, but also makes me definitely not want to lose my phone.
Yes. And also, they follow the patent for it, which continues.
That's the most interesting thing, I think, is the patent, because it's just now it's sort of, wow, it's legit.
Yeah,
it's real. Yeah.
Well, we'll see how much of a splash it actually has. When I first started, when I first heard that the Nexus S was coming out with an NFC, and it was like, okay, yeah, but that does you absolutely nothing. You knew that they had it in their plans, that they were going to go down that route, and hopefully, NFC was going to become a big deal. They're hedging their bets in that regard, but it still kind of feels like this thing that may or may not catch on. I'm as of yet not sold, but I think it's cool. You know what I mean?
I think they're hearing rumblings from the competitor, we shall not name on this show, that their next phone is going to have that. So they got to step it up. They got to.
That happens, and I mean,
they've already had that installed in the Nexus S, so let's just make it real.
And I'm sure more.
Technology's there,
more
make it
phones.
happen. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Well, gentlemen, should we go ahead and head into the arena?
Yeah, let's do it.
Nice.
2 enter, 1 lives. Android Arena. Yeah. Woo.
Well, this week we're going to talk about app stores. The three of us have 3 different app stores. I'm sure you're going to... This totally makes sense.
You're going to figure out 2 of them. The third one's going to take you by surprise. Right, like a ninja.
We got a swerve in there.
Let's start with the newest
Big Daddy,
entry. Should we start with the Big Daddy or the
No,
newest entry?
actually, no.
Oh, okay.
Big Daddy in that it's new, I guess, maybe. That didn't make any sense.
And I guess I'll start that off with the Amazon App Store. Amazon just launched their new App Store last week, and we've all had a chance to play with it.
Yes, we have.
A couple things that are kind of weird. You have to check the box in your settings that says, I'm going to download unnamed sources, unknown files, and allow that to happen. Some of you probably don't want to do that, but, it's from Amazon. Okay. Another thing about it, what I like about the Amazon App Store, it looks like the Amazon store, and we all know what that is. And it's the same interface with the commenting. Let's see. Oh, it's a little white there. It looks just like the Amazon App Store that I think a lot of us have grown to know and love. Another cool thing is that there is a free app of the day. Today, as we're recording, it's Newsweek Mobile, and it's only got 1 star. Okay.
Oh, that's no good.
Normally $1.99. I did download that app actually for this Zoom, but I think it launched with about 3,700 apps. Now, if you uninstall this app, all those apps that you downloaded from the store is going to go away.
They stay on your phone, but they don't validate when you try to run them.
Exactly. And another cool thing is that you could test drive on the website.
Yeah, this is pretty cool. Let me keep showing that. And
I'm just going to show you some more. I
was really impressed by that too, the test drive concept.
Yeah.
I mean, when you see it up there, like that's something that's really clever that I'm surprised nobody's really tried to do yet in a web environment. But,
hey, why didn't Google do this?
Yeah,
you know what I mean? It's kind of like, okay, so Android comes along, or Amazon comes along, and they actually.
I mean, it's just an embedded emulator. That's all it is.
Yeah,
right?
there it is.
Yeah.
There it is. So you can go to this. Oh, really?
On my site. Well, when I tried it yesterday.
This is Diner Dash 2, which is $4.99. It was free a couple of days ago. I gotta say about the the Amazon App Store, their whole get a paid app for free every single day really does get you coming back every single day. Like I've checked every single day so far. But yeah, you can go ahead and play it here, although I didn't do any sort of research on the controls.
See, now this is where I got stuck. And then I couldn't play it. And then I decided, you know what? I'm not going to download this app because I don't want to.
Oh, well, that sounds like just user error then.
Is it me?
Oh.
User error. It was me.
Oh, here we go.
There you go.
Yeah. Come on. See, I didn't actually.
I don't know.
This.
Jason's having some user error too.
I think one of the biggest challenges with the Amazon App Store, at least what I found, was just that the fact that now I've got like 4 Amazon apps. I've got Amazon proper, the Amazon Kindle, the Amazon MP3 store, the Amazon App Store. It's like, it's great. It's awesome. I love Amazon because I actually use Amazon for my music and for almost, it's probably one of the highest traffic sites for me for my purchases and things like that. But four or 5 apps, just give me one, condense it into one kind of super app, you know. So but I understand why they're doing it though.
There are some apps that are available only on the Amazon App Store. One of them was called Pocket Booth, and I can't find it on here. Let's see here. Which is basically an app. It takes like a strip of photos where you have 4 pictures. Like if you go into a photo booth and you do the 4 quick photos. And I downloaded it for, there it is, thank you. I downloaded it for my phone, which I thought was going to be fun to play with, especially because I have a front-facing camera, but it doesn't allow you to use the front-facing camera. And
that's what you
I
want.
wrote to them on Twitter and I said, hey, I like your app. Thanks for bringing it to the Android store, but some of us have a front-facing camera, so we could do this properly and go, hey, chick, 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 chick. But unfortunately, they wrote to me, Android OS had no uniform way of accessing front camera, couldn't ensure success on all phones, adding once fixed. That's from
there's the problem. That's the problem with all these all these different flavors of phones and devices and versions of the OS and stuff like that. And so what happens is that they could have done it and it would work. It would probably work on 2.3, but everyone on 2.2, 2.1 wouldn't work, or it might work on some phones and not all of them. And so it's hard. It's hard to be a developer. I'm telling you.
It really is. It really
Hard
is.
out here for a developer.
I don't know. Overall, I like having another avenue to purchase apps. I did get confused. I bought Shazam. Encore was one of the free apps early on, but I already had Shazam on my phone, and then I have the two icons now on my phone.
Oh,
I
really?
didn't know which one to delete. Whatever.
When
I'm moving so fast, it was just kind of confusing. I'll figure it out by size.
Right.
I mean, it's tough when the Android market is so baked into the Android experience from Google, and when you use a third-party marketplace like Amazon. Like I found myself like not getting the downloading in the status bar, the notification bar. The downloading progress and the install, that threw me for a loop when I used Amazon for the first time. I was like, how do I know if it's downloading? I'm like, oh, it tells you in the app. But I was so used to looking for the pull-down pane. So, yeah.
Yeah, well, I think you make a really good point, is that the market is built into your phone experience. And that's actually one of the downsides, potentially, from a security standpoint of the Amazon market, is that you do have to check the unknown sources box. Now, I always have it checked because I install APKs and, download ROMs or whatever the case may be. So I just leave it checked and watch myself. But to the uninitiated Android user, checking that essentially leaves your phone open to installing who knows what. You still have to accept it, but it kind of removes a layer of security that they put in there. That's why that even exists.
Right.
And it has to stay checked. If you want to install it's not just installing the App Store, it's installing any of the apps that come through it, because it's not filtering through the official Android market.
Well, I've decided to purchase the free app of the day if I really want it. And
Interesting you say purchase.
Because you're not purchasing, it's free.
Download. And then other apps that I could also find in the Google Marketplace, I'm going to just buy it in the Google Marketplace. And I also don't like the fact that I can't choose, and this is just a bug fix, I'm sure, but I can't choose what credit. I have 2 credit cards listed on the Amazon store. I wanted to use one specifically for buying apps, and I couldn't do that. Whereas in Google, you could pull the drop down, and you could choose if you have 2 entered in. It was just
that's because Amazon's all tied to that whole one click. You have to.
Yeah, right.
So I have to go into the settings to change it, the credit card that I normally use all the time to the other one. It's too much. It's like too many steps. So I've decided personally that I'm just going to buy stuff from the Google Marketplace unless there's something really compelling, or if it's only available on the Amazon App Store at this point in time. Oh, and here's my photos of Jason. I don't know. This is Photo Booth. This is Photo Booth here. So this is what I mean about the strips.
Oh, it's cool.
It's a cool app. It's just let's use the front camera. Let's get that going.
I wasn't really sure what you were doing there
I
at
know,
first. I was
sorry.
like, you're taking a picture. So the first two pictures are the same.
You look shocked in the photos. It looks like you're like,
I was
You're
hiding,
shocked.
and then I was playing it up. So I had no idea. Well, we might as well,
I think we're done. Do we miss anything about the Amazon App Store? Oh, AT&T is planning on giving access to AT&T users who they don't have access right now to the Amazon App Store. That's coming.
AT&T likes to kind of take some of the functionality out of Android, and one of those things that they did was not allow side loading, which is basically what you're doing when you check unknown sources.
So afraid of what's going to happen to my Nexus S.
Uh-oh. Well, you've got some time to figure it out.
Sad
It's
pen.
going to be a
I'm worried too.
slow transition.
I got a year. I'm gonna use that unlimited 4G unlimited
use it
data.
up.
Yeah.
a hotspot. I'm just gonna keep the hotspot running
Just
non-stop,
all I
like
need.
24/7.
Please.
So I guess I'm up, and I'm on a little more of a conservative choice, but I'm actually looking at the Android market from Google.
The choice that most people know.
Sure, yes, the natural one. Like we said, this is baked into your phone. So when you get an Android phone, it is the market. That is the marketplace option. I have felt, being an Android user, being an OG Android user from the original G1 when it came out, the marketplace was Google's weakest point in the process. The fact that when it launched, the app was the only place where you can get applications from or any information, I thought was a real bad decision. I thought the Market app itself was not the greatest. It was all right. They have done, and I guess they agreed with me, because the past couple of months have been rapid updates and improvements of this application to the point where now it's like, oh, this is pretty good.
Yeah,
So
the market's so much better now.
it's so much better. So now what you've got is you've got this a prettier kind of interface, as Eileen's showing you on her phone. You've got the ability on the home. Yeah, Jason.
OG
sorry.
droid right here.
I was wondering. I'm like, that looks a little wild. So as Jason's looking on the OG droid, got a little bit of a little more color involved, a little more of the green going on, a nice little kind of cover flow kind of approach on the homepage. Really, it's on this side, it's the UI. The functionality hasn't changed dramatically from the original launch of the Android market. You can still, you can browse via apps or games, which I think is an interesting delineation, that they're saying these are applications and these are games, and that's the high level kind of organization. And then within each of those sections, they've broke it out. So, under apps, you can look for business apps or communication or entertainment and that sort of thing. And under games, they do a pretty good job of organizing them by casual games or arcade games or racing games, that sort of thing. It's pretty neat. And it makes it that much more cleaner to work with. But the biggest improvement on the Android market, if you ask me, is the website. So now if you go to market.android.com, that loads up Google's whole website. Not only can you browse all the apps that are in the Android marketplace very easily, it's really easy to find. I found this is where I go to look for reviews. Like, I hate looking at reviews on the app for some reason. The interface is kind of kludgy, but looking them on the website is super clean. But then the killer app for this is the install from a web browser, which I love. The fact
I love that. Yeah.
Yeah, you can go to Jamie's 20-minute meals. I didn't even know that was there, and literally just 5 minutes ago, I clicked on the browser.
Only $4.81. Buy that
Totally.
sucker.
So it's tied into your Google account. So you need to sign into Google, but you're already signed in because you're using Gmail and Google Calendar and stuff like that. And it just makes it really easy to I'll go to the Android market, and when I step away from the website, I'll have installed 5 more new apps. And so it's made discovery for me that much better. So,
and while put up for you now.
We'll just go ahead and check out.
there you go.
Hey, what is this? Graphically
Oh my
comics.
goodness, what is this app?
This looks fascinating. Oh yeah, I'll install that. Click.
You can tweet about it. You can,
Oh yes.
Wah, wah.
Sorry,
haven't
I
signed
sign in.
Yeah. So while Google, was really, really weak when they started, I think now it's a strong app to make you really wonder whether you need Amazon at all or if you need any other marketplace.
You guys want to see it on the tablet?
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, let's do it.
Look
Boom.
at that. Boom.
That's sexy. That's cool.
Okay. Oh, this is gonna move. Come on, move. There you go.
Okay.
You can just kind of. Oh, oops! I've already. Okay. Hardwood solitaire. Anybody?
Interesting how it's
Four.
matching the look and feel of the website a bit more than the phone app.
Right.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you.
I like that. That's sexy.
You could share. If I wanted to share with you on Beluga, Ron.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh, nice.
Just to give you another look.
It's kind of the fusion of both worlds. It's like
Here's
the
books.
Android marketplace desktop fused with your phone all.
And don't forget they
once.
added books recently.
Right.
So there you go. That's
So you can buy a
beautiful.
lot of public domain books. Buy a lot of public domain books.
Yeah.
It's
I'm sure
beautiful.
there are others
yeah.
in
No,
there as
this is hot. I gotta say, I really.
Yeah, they've really done a lot to improve the marketplace because that
And I'm
was just
so glad because I didn't understand why they didn't. Like, it made no
Yeah.
sense to me why this is the weakest link in the chain.
It was just
especially
brutal.
from a software company. you know,
brutal
so.
trying to find stuff. And now it's actually I do the same thing. I just open it up on a browser and then push it to the phone. It's just so easy to do
It
that
really
so
is.
quickly, you know.
Totally.
So you may be wondering.
What store could Jason have?
Those are the two big ones, and I'll just go ahead and say that. Where is that article that I got this from? There is an article that'll be posted in the show notes. I'm sure it's here somewhere. I can't find it, but it basically listed 10 alternatives to the Google Marketplace, and I didn't really recognize many of them. I'm sure you guys probably would if you saw the list, and maybe I'll pull it up here in a second. But I chose Slide Me. Ever heard of that one?
Slide me.
Slide Me?
Slide Me.
I'm sure somebody's heard of it. Somebody in the chat
I'm
room
just
will be like, oh,
being a
yeah, I
goof.
heard about it. And
Sorry.
it sucks. But that's true because it kind of does suck. So Slide Me. Here we go. I mean, it's okay. You look at it and there's not a whole lot of drama to the layout, but it's functional.
Looks like
I
the
guess.
old Android marketplace.
Yeah, it's pretty simple. It's
What we just dissed.
yeah. I'll tell you, I spent maybe 20 minutes with this thing, and I was like, God, I'm never using this again. It's too bad I have to talk about it.
Jason, you took one for the team.
Yeah, well, somebody had to.
I said, "Oh, can I do Amazon, please?"
And maybe it has its users, and I did actually go through the process of installing an app on it, and whatever, the app works great. I've tried to install a few things, and I get this. I don't even know what I'm loading right now. Tower of Clumps. I get this thing where it says it's not compatible with your device, but everything would say that, and I'm not really quite sure why. It's not like I'm running an obscure device. It's
Oh man,
Motorola
what a
Droid.
game! What is
But,
this?
I feel, isn't Slide Me's their whole thing is that it's very developer friendly? Like, it's like developer and monetization.
You've obviously done more homework than I have on this app store. I just installed it, which was a side load install, of course, and just kind of thumbed through it a little bit. And I mean, so this is the screen that I get to. Unfortunately, this application does not seem compatible with your device specifications. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Every single app I pull up says that.
This is interesting. I'm on their website and their about page.
Yeah.
It's Slide Me's philosophy is simple. One application store can't reach everyone everywhere with the applications they want. We provide applications to these niche markets based on geographic location, payment method, or even types of applications that users can't find in traditional channels.
Okay.
That's interesting. An interesting approach.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think the point here is not necessarily that I probably am not doing Slide Me justice because if anybody involved with Slide Me is watching this right now, they're probably rolling
eyes,
like yelling at the screen right now. So I'm sorry to you. But I think the bigger point is that Android is an operating system that allows you to open these many markets, and the greater question is, when there's a lot of markets to choose from, is that a good thing because you've got a lot of variety and a lot of choice, or is that a bad thing because from a quality perspective? I guess choice outrules quality though, because you have a couple of choice quality options, Amazon and the official Google store being those two. So anyways, check out the notes. We're once this episode posts live, it's not live yet, the site is not live yet, but once it posts live, we should have the show notes going into the wiki, and I think you can find all that information at twit.tv/AAA, and I'll try and include the article that I couldn't find now that has the 10 different alternative markets, and you can take a look and let me know if I missed something, because So that is that. One thing that we've been doing with the betas is allowing you to kind of vote and let us know what you think of the apps that we covered. So if you go to poll.cm/1007, you can let us know which market do you prefer of the ones that we talked about: Google Android Market, Amazon App Store, Slide Me, other, because there are plenty of other ones, and we obviously did not talk about them all. So go there and check it out. We'll check in on this on the results next week. I have a feeling I think I know what one's gonna win.
What store?
Put some money down on it. Or what are you
Ooh. Nah, I'm not gonna
It's
put it
Slide
in.
Me.
Yeah, totally. Everybody's like, yeah, you missed it. Big time.
Everybody uses that one. You just don't know it.
Totally. Not one of the cool kids.
Hey, so we got some voicemails, right?
Excellent. We do have some voicemails.
You've got mail.
Fitting that we play that because that was created by Joshua Caleb, and he actually sent us a video mail, which I'm going to pull up here.
Ooh, we love video mail.
And we'll take a look here. Oh, whoa. Here we go.
Hey, Jason, Eileen, and Ron. I would like to share a small plight of an Android user regarding screen sizes. So here is my Droid Incredible, a 3.7-inch screen. Fits in my hand nice and snug, and I can reach the screen with my thumb quite easily. Now here is my mom's Samsung Fascinate. It has
Bigger.
a 4-inch screen. Barely fits in my hand. I have to really stretch my thumb if I want to actually reach the entire space of the screen. Now, this wouldn't be such a big deal having varying screen sizes in Android phones if every new phone wasn't coming out with a 4+ inch screen. Whatever happened to these small and sleek phones that people drooled over that fit in your pocket? Why are the manufacturers abandoning us small folk for the big people with bare paw hands? Anyway, thanks for listening to my sad tale, and good luck with your new show.
Oh, yeah, that's so sad.
Oh,
Kind of.
love the
I had no
production
idea where
on
that was going, but
The production on that, Joshua, was awesome.
Yeah,
Thank
we
you.
like that.
All of a sudden, the music started playing. I'm like, wait, are you doing that, Jason?
yeah, I know, right?
Who was doing that?
It took me by surprise when I first saw it too. Obviously, that isn't a voicemail. You can leave us a voicemail 347-SHOW-AAA, or you can email us, which is what Joshua did, aaa@twit.tv, and send us a link to your video mail. So, what do you guys think? Are they leaving? Like, it seems like a lot of these devices are kind of hitting that 4-inch form factor. I don't know. My opinion on this is I have the original Motorola Droid. I couldn't tell you actually because I've never stopped to think about it how big the screen actually is, but I do know that it's pretty dang narrow. Yeah. And so it's easy for me to reach across, which is great, I guess, in that particular example that he pointed out, but is horrible for screen typing. I feel like I can hardly type on it because the screen is so small. So I guess it kind of comes with a trade-off.
Right, but let's be honest. I mean, I can barely. I have a Nexus S, which isn't as wide. Like the Evo for me was huge. I thought that was like a brick. But even on the Nexus S, I have a hard time typing because I have huge fat thumbs. You know what I mean? Like I feel like typing and doing that and doing the real precision kind of stuff is a challenge for people like with big hands or like these. It's just such a small space as it is anyway. But yeah, I think 4-inch is becoming a bit of a de facto standard. And his video really made me think: how much one-handed use do I actually use my phone with versus two hands?
Yeah, really good point. I feel like I do that a lot, actually. I'm holding a baby, and I got the phone in my other hand, and trying to punch out an email or something. Yeah.
I don't know. I use mine. I kind of do this. I'm like this. I don't know. Constantly.
Yeah.
But I don't have a baby, so I can't. I can't. I can't.
The baby is but one example of where one-handed typing happens. But yeah, thanks for sending that in, Joshua. We really like voicemails and video mails and emails along those lines. So
that's really good.
You are welcome to send them in, aaa@twit.tv. We also got another email from Pete Costello, and he basically says he just picked up an Android Atrix 4G a few weeks ago.
Cool.
And he's wondering what's the best way to subscribe to our podcast or any video podcast for playback on an Android phone. He wants full control over how much content is downloaded, particularly only video downloads via Wi-Fi, avoid consuming, the bandwidth on the data plan. And I just kind of went through and just quickly thought of the ways that you can subscribe to All About Android. So check this, or will be able to once this feed is posted live. There is an app actually in the Android App Store called TWiT.tv by Mediafly. It's Mediafly is a company that kind of has all of our shows looped into this app there, and it's really easy to get to. I believe you can set it up to download to the phone, or is it all by request? I'm not sure. I've played with it a little bit, but it has the entire archive, and we'll have AAA very soon. If you want a free podcast app, you can get Google's Listen app, which is a podcast downloading app. Either
you
of
get what you pay for with that one.
Yeah, I used that for quite a while, and I actually kind of got used to the the quality issues, and you don't have as much full control over that. But eventually, I heard everybody talking about the paid app called Dog Catcher, and that's $6.99, and I believe worth every penny if you are a podcast fan. And actually, Eileen has it here.
That was one of the first apps I reviewed on App Judgment back in the day. Do you remember that?
Yeah,
Eileen?
I remember that.
Yeah,
I remember you were telling me about this.
Dog Catcher was the way to go. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's a little pricey, I guess, at $7. But when you think about how much podcast listening you do, Dog Catcher really gives you a very great way to control all of that media. You can specify, this is a show that's done every day, so I want you to download only the most recent episode and discard the last one. You can kind of program it for each feed or system wide to kind of do what you were talking about there, Pete, as far as controlling when it's downloaded on Wi-Fi or when it's plugged in, that type of stuff. Then he also mentioned that he had kind of mixed issues. God, the monitor was dimming out.
It was really
out there.
dark.
Was
Sorry
strange.
about that. People watching the video.
I think it was probably fine for people, but it was just our monitors do that sometimes. Desktop sync in the old iTunes method, you can use double twist, and that's kind of the Android, unofficial Android kind of music sync, similar to iTunes. And you can subscribe to feeds there, and every time you plug your phone in, it'll sync it right over. So those are a few ways you can subscribe to us. Check it out.
There's a lot of air.
Cool.
There's air syncing too with double.
Oh, that's right.
I've
They
been
have
using
air
quite
sync
a bit.
So you don't even have to plug it in. You just have to be close to it. Sweet.
Cool. So we got another email in. A lot of you, on some of our demo shows, we were talking about. We'd love to hear from you guys in the audience what you think of some of the phones that are coming out, some of the handsets, because there's so many out there. We can't really get our hands on them because I can only afford the phone I use.
Right.
But so Benjo from Walnut, California, heeded the call and sent in a mini review of the Thunderbolt. And Benjo says, "I love Android. I started with the Motorola Droid, then moved on to Droid X, and now currently using the HTC Thunderbolt, and I just want to let you guys know what I think about it. It's a great phone, hands down probably the fastest out of the three I've owned in terms of browser and overall speed. The UI is snappy and sexy, and I probably prefer it over the Moto Blur. But the LTE service is ridiculously fast, 15 Mbps near the Verizon store where I bought it. When I have service, it would seem that I would just drop LTE service a lot, even when I'm standing in the same exact spot, even though according to Verizon, I'm supposed to be getting great LTE service in my area. Also, the battery life leaves something to be desired, as I would probably lose charge within 5 to 6 hours of intermittent heavy use. I bought an extra regular battery in anticipation of this, but it's such a pain to have to replace the battery midday since the boot time seems a little longer than my older Android phones, 2 minutes and 15 seconds from the start of boot to usable. Despite all that, I still think it's a given improvement over the Droid X. Look forward to your next shows, and if I can make a request, step-by-step tutorials on how to root devices and putting Android on the Nook. Thanks again." So thanks for writing in, Benjo. That's great. It's good to hear. I've heard mixed things about the Thunderbolt. A friend of mine just got it, and I'm actually going to get to play with it this weekend, and I'm actually really looking forward to that.
Yeah.
Let us know what you think, because I'm wondering, I hear issues with battery life, but that it's incredibly fast. So I don't know. I feel like, we're also on the watch for what Jason's going to purchase. That's another sort of running segment to the show for those of you who are just watching for the first time. But Jason's going to upgrade his OG droid someday.
That's right.
And
someday.
we're wondering what that's going to be. I'm going to put money. It's going to be the Bionic.
Yeah.
Interesting.
What do you think, Ron? We need to.
I wasn't prepared for this. I need to do some more research. I need to.
On the fly.
I'm going to come back next week with my prediction.
Okay.
That's about as much as I know either.
Now you know.
I have no idea what I'm going to get.
What I'm going to get. So now you're going to look up all the specs and.
I will say that.
No, but Jason is a specific type of user. I think that it's got to hit on a couple. It's got to be a little kind of hacky. He's got to be able to work with it. He's a power user.
Drucifer in the chat room says no Bionic. You can't root it.
Interesting. Yeah, that's something that Jason would want.
But maybe Jason will do it.
I will not be able to figure out how to root it if no one else has, but I always have faith in someone figuring it out. So as of yet, they've tried. The hardware manufacturers have tried to lock their phones down, and ultimately they always end up getting rooted. It's just a matter of time. So, but yes, we will do that. We will bring you step-by-step tutorials. Actually, hopefully very soon. Like I said earlier, root Eileen's phone.
Oh yeah, I'm the guinea pig. So just you wait. It's me. I've been waiting for it. So.
Do it on the show. So
No.
Right on.
Do it live.
All right. And if you guys get a brand new spanking phone that we haven't talked about, send us a comment, and that'll be a great way for us to share your knowledge with the rest of the listeners and the viewers of the show. So I think that's it.
That's it for
I
this
think
week.
we've gone just a little over an hour, and that's about overstaying our welcome at this point. So
That's a packed show. There's a lot
We
going
had a
on
lot
in the world of
news
Android.
yeah,
and
absolutely,
stuff. So,
absolutely. But I think it went very well.
I do too.
Congrats, you guys. This
Congrats!
feels
Good job.
right.
Cheers.
This feels good.
Woohoo, first show in the can.
All right. So Ron, where can people find you?
So people can find me. You can find me on Twitter at @RonXO, or you can find me over on graphically.com or ifanboy.com.
Yeah,
and
check out Graphically. It's
yes,
a great app.
please. Plug.
That's right. And Eileen.
I'm Eileen TV on Twitter, and I'm all over Twit, so that's where you can find me.
Yeah, you'll be in the background yelling at Leo at some point. And I'm at Raygun01 on Twitter. So that is it for this week. Don't forget, you can be a part of the show by sending us a voicemail at 347-SHOW-AAA. You can send us an email, aaa@twit.tv. All About Android is now on Twitter, at Android Show. And you can catch us live every Monday from 5 to 6 p.m. Pacific at live.twit.tv. That's it. We'll see you next week for another edition of the All About Android. Bye.
Let's see the dancing android.
I know. I want to see it. Come on, dance. Dance. There we go.